So bear with me. I'm gonna attempt to do a quick video based on an article I saw from JB Tools, Pitfalls of a DIY do-it-yourself oil change. Let's see if I can get that light that's not really helping out above my head. But it talks about using it stresses the importance of complying with manufacturer's recommendation and changing your oil for the purposes of lubrication and dissipating heat through your engine. But then it says using the wrong type of oil. Well, these are common mistakes: using the wrong type of oil, lack of tools, overlooking the oil filter, tightening the drain plug too much, and oil disposal. So I've definitely got a fair share of these articles, and they've been beneficial. So I kind of went through and grabbed a bunch of stuff that should help out with an oil change, and I'll kind of give you my take on a simple process of an oil change. Pretty simple. This is my 2008 Acura TL Type S. It has about 80,000 miles on it. Actually, it's just about hit 90,000 miles, and I'm thinking about parking it at 100,000 miles just to less mileage, and just work on fixing it up. But this thing gets it has a oil change reminder light. Comes on the dash. In fact, this car's at 30% now, so coming due for an oil change. And I was at one point in my life where I always took my car to get it serviced, and then I had a couple of experiences where it just turned me off. And also, I want to do my own stuff and do it at my own convenience. Not sure if I necessarily save anything. In the long run, I might, after accumulating all the tools and doing multiple oil changes. I might, who knows, but that's not a factor that I take into account there. What else? So yeah, this video, I'm just gonna go over a couple of things that touch on the article. It's important to change your oil. It's important to change your oil at a recommended interval schedule. Well, how do you know the interval schedule of your oil change? Like I said, most cars, most modern cars, they're gonna have a reminder light. That reminder light is as good as the person who remembers to reset it. So if it's not reset, it's not gonna give you that reminder. So when you change your oil, you need to figure out how to reset that light in the car. Usually you can do it on the dash using all those buttons in your car. Some cars might be so fancy you might need to use a scan tool, pretty much a car computer. Plug it up to your OBD2 port, and that allows you to interface with that reminder light. But we're talking about DIY level, right? So you might be able to rent that stuff for yourself, or whatever. So you need a way to remind yourself. If not, just look at note the mileage that you change it at, and around 3,000 to 4,000 or 3,000 to 5,000 miles later. Obviously, again, recommend just checking with the manufacturer, looking in your. That's one thing I didn't add here, but this is gonna suffice. Every car has an owner's manual. Like, this is not the original owner's manual. This is just Haynes. Pretty much automotive books, automotive repair manual. You can get these at auto stores, but your regular owner's manual that is in your glove box, grab that thing and look at the oil change. It will tell you the oil change schedule. It will tell you the type of oil you need, all that stuff. So that's a starting point. Educate yourself. Don't just use YouTube videos, because there's people out there like myself who aren't trained, and there's people out there just put out random bullshit. So educate yourself first of all, and then read your owner's manual. Get something like this. If you can get I have the actual service manual for my cars, my Acura, even for my Tacoma. If you can get the original service manual where Hard copy, obviously this takes up a lot of space. Hard copy and or electronic, I highly recommend it. So start with education, right? That's the key. While I'm talking about books, if you do your own oil change, you might want to have a log, because if you take your car to a shop, most places will record that information in a vehicle history report type stuff. So if you go to sell your car, you might want to show up in like a Carfax, and that's gonna create that warm and fuzzy with the potential buyer as far as you keeping tabs on your car. I personally, so I have a little log here that I've made up with different mileages. I think this is for the Honda. Let's see. Yeah, this is for the Honda. So last time I did I did an oil change, November 26, 2022, did an oil change. I did cabin air filter and engine. It looks like I just did the cabin, and I might have just cleaned out that's what I made a modified C for cabin, 74,000 miles. And I even made my own little legend right here. Inspection only, rotate tires, tire pressure checked, change fluid filter, T for tested. So get your own little log if you're a DIY. So if I go to sell this car, I can present this to the owner, and they're gonna be like hopefully impressed that I took care of my stuff. So anyway, let's just address the stuff that's in this JB Tools thing, because that's what I was initially going for 7 minutes in. So using the wrong type of oil, you could potentially use, if you have multiple cars like I do. So I have a Tacoma, I have an Acura, I have a Honda Accord. Acura and Honda are pretty much the same, but not in all cases. So again, your owner's manual, your original owner's manual, not your Haynes, your actual owner's manual for the car will tell you the oil type. And then when you look at your oil cap, it will tell you, see owner's manual. My car here, if assuming no one has replaced this cap with an incorrect cap, whatever, it says SAE 5W20, and then obviously it's marked for engine oil, right? So in process of elimination, I have multiple cars here and I have multiple oil. Well, you can see I have a SAE 5W20, that looks right. But then I move over here, I got a SAE OW20, right? So when I grab my oil, I always grab the cap, and I make sure I'm not doing 2 oil changes at the same time. I mean, you could be potentially doing more, but you just got to have a fail-safe system in place so you don't get stuff mixed up. So I always look at the cap and match the cap with the box, 5W20, 5W20. I shouldn't be grabbing OW20. So these are for my Honda. These are for the Honda. And these aren't marked. Actually, they might be. So typically I'll use I'll just grab a Sharpie. And I had one laying around here. Actually, here we go. What I've done in the past, I know this video might be a little bit long. What I've done in the past is just if you have multiple, just write on them. Again, chicken scratch, that will help you from putting the wrong oil in your car, because that could, destroy your engine. Obviously, if you pour the wrong oil in there, don't freak out. Just don't run your car. Just drain that oil. In my case, what I would do is if I put this viscosity OW20 in there instead of 5W20, I would automatically just cut my losses and drain that entire system, and then pour the correct amount of the correct oil in there, and then I'll run it through, and then I'll potentially you know, within driving it for like, I don't know, 100 miles or something, I'd change that oil again just to maximize the potential of getting the wrong type of oil out of the car. But if you follow some basic steps, it's pretty simple. You won't run into that issue. But if you do, it's not the end of the world once you don't like operate it for a prolonged period of time. So why does the oil matter? Viscosity. Some oil are more thicker, some are less, you know, are more like watery or watered down. So viscosity matters. It's design. The engine is designed for a specific type of oil. Like I said, consult your owner's manual. Then you might get into the whole, you know, advanced full synthetic motor oil, all this stuff, and you know, just a lot of stuff, a lot of information. You know, all this information right here. Unlock maximum performance. This shit sounds like, pardon my language, sounds like when you go to get Wi-Fi. It's like, dude, I just want my Wi-Fi to work. I don't care about all the fancy names. Pretty sure that all that stuff means something, but I'm pretty sure it's also marketing. The brand, does the brand matter? It's your preference. I've always gone with Castrol. I've always heard about, growing up, it's like Castrol GTX. I don't know. I've always heard about Castrol growing up. So pretty reliable. If in doubt, go get the oil from, you know, Honda in this case, or Acura, or Toyota in the case of my Tacoma. Get the oil from the actual dealership. Those I picked up from AutoZone. But as you can see, I do have oil from Honda. I have a little bit here, and I have a little bit here. Will I be okay with mixing these two? Yes. Especially in the quantity and the ratio that they're being mixed. I don't think it's going to change the properties that much. Just because I don't like wasting the oil, but if ever in doubt, you can just, you know, throw the lesser of the two away and get, you know, more of each. Anyway, what else? Synthetic, like I said, I'm not going to pretend to be smart about that. Go on YouTube. There's a lot of people who have done reviews on that. But again, do your own due diligence. Educate yourself. Don't just take YouTube for the gospel. And like I said, if you're ever in doubt about what type of oil to use, go ask the dealership, right? Anyway, it's getting long-winded. Lack of tools. So this might get a little bit much here. In no specific order, I'm gonna start over here actually. So your car, let's talk about that for a second. There's no way to drain your oil. Most cars, the older cars are not even older, but most cars, you drain it from under the car. There's no way you're gonna shimmy yourself under this car at ground level, you know, with the wheels on. Some cars, there's not a drain plug underneath, so you might have to use a suction pump to suck it out of the engine, right? Like European cars and stuff like that. Audis and Volkswagen, I guess. You might have to suck it out. I don't know if you can really see up there, but I have like a little pump right there. And actually there's one back over there that I can use. These, my cars, they drain from the bottom, right? But like I said, you're not gonna just get under there. So you're gonna need yourself a floor jack. Get yourself an appropriate floor jack that is meant to hold the weight of your car, to jack it up. It's a 3-ton, so 6,000 pounds. Most cars, when you look right there on the inside of the door jamb, it's gonna provide the weight of the car. You know, if you're on the limit. And then you also want to get whenever you go under a car, you never want to go under a car with the car just resting on the hydraulic jack here. Get some jack stands. Now, pretty sure you know what jack stands are, but again, get some decent quality jack stands that's, again, weight rated for your car. My jack stands are buried. I don't want to even pretend like I'm going to get into pulling one out because they're buried deep. Or maybe you have a lift. I have a lift right here. I know it's kind of buried in the mess. I have a lift system right here to lift my car. But if you see behind that door, there we go. Those are some high lift jack stands. So even with this lift, I plan to use some high lift jack stands. And I do have regular size jack stands. So you need jack stands. If you don't have jack stands, well, those black things right there, they are ramps. Focus. They're ramps, just keeps focusing on my finger, that you could drive up your car on to get it elevated. And then as a last resort, if you have a high enough curb, curbside, just drive your car up on the curb, if you can, safely. And that way your car is slightly going to be elevated. Preferably drive it up on the side with the filter and the drain plug. So on my side, it would be I'd want to put my passenger side up, and drain it. Just be mindful that when you go to drain your oil, it recommends draining your oil on a leveled surface. Else you might not get all the old oil out of the car, but it's better than nothing. At least it gets your car up. You just don't want to do some, makeshift stuff using some piece of board and stuff. Yeah, you can use lumber to build yourself a ramp and it's going to be safe, but just be mindful of that stuff. So you need jack stands, some ramps, potentially use a curb, and then always use jack stands. Always chalk your vehicle once you have the vehicle elevated. So the front of the car is elevated. Use a pair of jacks or wheel chalks. These are from Harbor Freight. They're like $5, rubber, cheap. Save your life. Getting under the car, you got the car jacked up, you need to get under it. You could get under the car using just slide a piece of cardboard and shimmy yourself under it, or you could get a creeper. Again, my creeper is buried. But if you don't know what a creeper is pretty much a little lay flat dolly, or get yourself some kind of mat or something. Something with wheels that you can slide yourself up under the car easily. Or you can just do it with cardboard, right? It's not the end of the world. I've done it with cardboard before. What else tools you need? So we'll just go left to right. So it depends on where you're changing your oil. You might not want to create a mess. Again, use cardboard or use these pig mats. They just roll out and they just absorb, right? You're going to create some kind of mess at some point in time in your life doing oil change. So you chalk your wheels, pig mat. You need to be able to remove the filter, right? Here's the filter. You need to be able to remove this thing. And as you can see, it has, this one has these edges on it for it to grip onto. So filters, they come in all different flavors. Like this is a 3/4 inch. So you put your ratchet in there and you turn it. Same thing with this. Or you can get these ones where you just put it around there. Sometimes you might need to use something more aggressive. This one is gonna grip into there and potentially destroy this filter. So you need some kind of things to remove the filter, because when you do an oil change, you absolutely need to remove the filter, right? Before you, obviously, you can do the filter first, it doesn't matter, or you can do the oil filter, or you can just remove the oil. One recommendation for removing the oil, always make sure anything that has a drain and a fill separate, ensure that you can undo the fill port first, because I would hate for you to drain the thing and then you can't refill it. I had done this, unloosened this, so that's why it was. So always make sure that your fill port, that you can undo it before you drain any type of fluid, right? It's just like my radiator. I would not go drain the pepcock if I wasn't sure that this cap could get undone, right? So what you might need, in my case, I need a 17 millimeter to remove that drain plug in the bottom, right? I have these on here only because I was gonna show you. Sometimes my sometimes these caps are really hard to come off, and I got these Mueller caps with this rubber overmold that I can just put on there, and it's not gonna mar it up, and I can just turn it and open it, and that's the reason I have that, because sometimes the pressure in there, obviously when the engine is kind of warm, it keeps that thing tight, and the grime and all the stuff on the threads. If not, you don't have one of those, just get something with a flat face on it. That way you're not marring your plastic. Clearly I just did that when I was, whatever. But that's why I have those there. Not required. Some people don't care about that stuff. Filter. Always change your filter. Some filters are up from the top, some filters are from the bottom. I realized that your car, depends on the brand, might have a different type of oil filter remover. Sometimes you have the little smaller oil filter caps. Sometimes have plastic housings. Toyota has a specific one, but it shouldn't be hard to find out what you need. But go with a filter. So I generally stock these Honda filters. And then with a filter, you're always going to need a crush washer. So once you remove that drain plug onto the bottom, you should remove that bolt, and it should have a washer on it. It's already crushed because it's meant to seal, so it's already crushed. Always use a crush washer. I have a full bag of crush washers. If you go to buy a filter from the dealership, they usually ask if you want a filter, and they'll literally use a little piece of tape and tape it on there, so you don't forget it. Controversial, but a lot of people are like, well, you don't need to torque your drain plug. Well, those are also the people who probably have over-tightened people's drain plug. I don't generally torque my stuff. If I don't have a torque wrench handy set up, I usually just snug it up with this. And when I stay snug, I just turn it till it's tight, and not over-tightening, right? So that's one of the tools, and that's one of the things it talks about, over-tightening. So yeah, get yourself a torque wrench so you can torque it to the appropriate spec per the owner's manual, right? It's going to be a messy job. You're going to get oil on the floor, potentially, if you don't have cardboard or something down, but use some gloves. Get some shop towel. I mean, you can use regular, what do you call that thing you use in the kitchen? Pretty much same thing. To clean up the oil drain plug, when you remove that oil drain plug, it might have, you want to clean it up to just see how many metal shavings are on it. Clean up your tools after, whatever. If you need to clean something up, have this. You're going to need a flashlight. You're going to need to see stuff. Get yourself an appropriate flashlight. Have a socket here. You could use the same wrench that you use. Let's see. You could use the same 3/4 inch wrench that you use to put on one of these oil filter housing or things. Come on. You can have the same setup, and then you could end up removing it, and then you could just grab yourself, what did I do with it? A socket. Well, it's not going to work. Get yourself a socket to put on your torque wrench to get that bolt back on, right? So this is a 17 millimeter. Use this one to remove. I can always use this one to remove, but whatever. You get the idea. This comes in handy because if the oil is hot, I can just put this on the nut once I have it broken loose, and I can just spin it off. And when it falls off, the thing doesn't fall into the oil pan, and when it's loose and I'm just turning it off, I won't get oil all over me. You're gonna need to fill your oil back up, right? So undo that, put your funnel in there, and fill that thing up, right? So it's not spilling over on you. I think we covered all the tools on here. Yep. I talked about the oil. You'll need somewhere to catch the oil, right? You catch the oil right here. You know, you just drain the oil in there. It's a simple process. Drain the oil in there, close it up. Boom, you're done. It's just an oil drain pan. Now, when you start draining your oil, it might, as it hits, it might splatter, and you might have to adjust this as the stream of the oil changes. You might want to slide it out away from the oil pan because it's going to shoot out. And then as it's coming to a slow drip, you want to like center it or something. Basic stuff. Absolutely, absolutely. An impact does not belong anywhere close to an oil change. For me, would I use an impact if there was a tight drain plug? Yeah, slightly, you know, like one tap, one tap, one tap, one tap. But would I use this to put one on? Absolutely not. Not required. That's how you strip out people's oil pan. So those are the tools. I have this fancy tray here. It just helps with, you know, keeping stuff at working height or whatever. I also use this tool creeper. You can see it. Just this black thing. I use this tool creeper so I can put my stuff on and slide up under the car. That way I have everything with me down there. But that's the gist of an oil change, right? So, yeah. And then oil filter. When you put this thing on, when you use this, you know, when you use this thing to remove it and you put it back on, some people will say pre-fill it so, you know, the car is not starting from an empty filter. I personally, I'll pre-fill mine. Things you definitely want to watch out for. I'm not going to take the plastic off because I'm not doing an oil change today. Ensure that when you remove the oil filter, this rubber gasket is also not on the maiden surface of the oil, the housing. Ensure this oil cap, this filter is not on there. If not, you're going to be double gasketing and it's gonna leak. I've never had that happen, but I hear it does happen, so I'll believe it. And then you just want to use some fresh oil and just just smear it along the edge of this filter just to create that tight seal. So let's see. Kind of talked about using the wrong type of oil. Again, the go-to for that, look at your owner's manual, call your dealership, look at the oil cap. Lack of tools. Talked about several tools that you will make your oil change job easier. Some are essential, some are just nice to have. Definitely a way to lift your car, a way to keep your car safely lifted in the form of jack stands and chocks. And then stuff to remove the plug and then to fill that oil. Over tightening overlooking the oil filter. You drain your oil, you're gonna need a filter of some sorts. And you're gonna need a crush washer. Over tightening the drain plug. Sorry. Use a torque wrench. It's gonna tell you the torque spec. It's gonna tell you how much Newton meter, foot-pounds, or whatever you need to set. And then do not use an impact. And if someone is using an impact, yeah, sue their ass. I don't know. Take them to judge duty. So yeah, don't over tighten your drain plug. And then oil disposal. Last one. Whenever this jug is filled, every city that I ever lived in, they have at your local recycling yard, usually at the entrance where you don't even have to go through the long line or go into the full up landfill recycling center. They have an oil drain, coolant, recycling where you just go drain your oil. And you just dump your oil in there. Some places like AutoZone, like when you drain your oil, if somehow you can get your oil transfer from this drain pan back into this, obviously using a funnel would help. You can actually take it back to like AutoZone and they'll recycle it for you. Just don't throw this stuff down the drain. Just don't pour it outside. It's not good. It's hazardous, and it's just not good at all. So, and it's free. If you take it back to any of those places, it's free to just dump it out, especially your city recycling center. It's free. I mean, can't get any easier than that. I don't store more than like probably this amount, just because, well, I need to empty it for my next time I'm using it, but I also don't need to take it there every oil change, especially if it's like sealing and it's not producing any odors in the garage. I'm good. So yeah, 30 minutes in, I think that's appropriate for this video. As far as the level of detail, talked about an oil change. So yeah, it's pretty basic. Once you have all the tools on hand, accumulated, we've kind of talked about lights. We got a different type of light right here. You're always going to need plenty of light, right? So that's what we talked about. Pitfalls of a DIY oil change, referencing the JB Tool little article from, I think it was February 24th, and I received it today. So go forth and do something for yourself. As we always say, like, I don't hate anything.